Everybody, this is Dr. Claud Anderson, author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader 1 and 2. His website is powernomics.com. I hope that you will go and take a look at powernomics.com because these are the books that I believe every Black child should read. And so what I think we can do, hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't done this, please hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you'd like to support intelligent Black media, as we push intelligent Black media throughout the world, please feel free to go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. So what I want to do is lay out 3 elements to what everybody can write down as a proposed code of conduct for everybody that's in here. If you will give me the privilege and the opportunity to make a suggestion, and Dr. Anderson, you can feel free to add to this, but I'm gonna throw out a suggestion for a code of conduct. You know, it's a balance. You know, I want you to have your civil liberty to do what you want. I'm not going to judge you for this, but I'm gonna, as an advisor, I'm not trying to be your leader. I'd love to be an advisor for you. Let me give you some suggestions on what I think could be a good code of conduct that we could begin in our households right now. Your household is your kingdom. That is your space. In my household, the Black culture in my household ain't the same as the Black culture that's out there. You know, in my household, the culture involves education. In my household, the culture involves financial literacy. In my household, the culture involves Black people loving each other, supporting each other, not no foolishness, domestic violence, or ignorance, anything like that. Why? Well, because in my household, I'm the king. In this kingdom, I am the king. I am Joffrey Joffer from Coming to America, and my face is printed on the money. Okay, so the same thing is true in your household. In your household, you are the king, you are the queen. You define the culture, you define the codes of conduct. You are going to build your family empire. So let me make 3 quick suggestions so that everybody can have something to take home with them. And you can write this down. If you got a pen nearby, write this down. I'm going to make a suggestion on some codes of conduct you may want to consider and implement. This is what we believe in. This is what we do in our house. Number 1, we believe deeply, and we repeat incessantly to the point of brainwashing, what we call the Black core of 3. If you know the Black core of 3, please state it. I'm gonna start having you guys, or asking you guys, inviting you to state the Black core of 3. We believe in, and this is the foundation for the Black Business School, everything else. We believe that Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses. We believe Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses. We know that others are not educating our kids. We need to do that. We need to create our own jobs because we don't want to spend our lives as slaves. And also we need to support Black businesses, because if you support Black businesses, then you're forming an economic base, which allows you to build more businesses and schools and create jobs and do anything you want to do. Number 2, we believe that every Black child before the age of 12 should know the fundamentals of the 3 pillars of wealth. That is how to buy a home / invest in real estate. It means how to start their own business, and how to make investments, particularly in the stock market or other places where their wealth will grow. So by the age of 12, your child should know the 3 pillars of wealth: stock and bond investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. And number 3, I'm gonna throw this out there again, a suggestion. Don't have to do it. Pick and choose the part that works for you. I believe that every Black family should all have your children understand the principles of Powernomics. You know, books like this represent the closest thing to a Black agenda that I've ever seen in my life. And these ideals, I think when your children understand these ideals at an early age, it allows them to grow into the kind of person who can be an asset to the community, who's going to take their energy and turn it inward and not outward, who's going to bring it back home to they're not running away from the hood. They tell you to try to get out the hood. No, they're coming back to the hood, and they're bringing resources back to the hood. That's how China became powerful. They had their best scientists and their smartest people trying to leave China, and they said, no, you don't want to leave China. You come home to China because that's where your strength is at. So those are 3 proposals I throw out to you: the Black core of 3, the things you want your child to do before the age of 12, and having your children read books like Powernomics. Okay, so Dr. Anderson, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, let me recount something that happened to me when I was with President Carter. I was invited to participate in a major program down in Puerto Rico. Again, it was focusing on codes of conduct. That meeting down in Puerto Rico, we met out at Fort Morrow out there, and in Puerto Rico. They had two of almost every extraction in the United States. They invited two Puerto Ricans. They had one one woman named Goldie Chu was a Puerto Rican from I guess maybe she was Asian, from Connecticut. They had Alfred Wong from San Francisco State. They had two Indians, I think an Apache and another Cherokee Indian participating. They had one white guy and one white female, and me, and I was somebody else in it, some other extraction. But anyway, I was raising Cain at the meeting, you know, for about 3 or 4 days meeting in Puerto Rico about the importance of having a code of conduct. And after about a half a day, we went out for a break. And some of the people in the meeting came out and met me in the hallway and said, Dr. Anderson, you know, we're tired of your crap. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, you might be the president of the United States. They said, but you're wasting our damn time. I said, what do you mean? They said, because you're the only person who keeps talking about the importance of a code of conduct. They say, everybody at this damn meeting, every extractor that has a code of conduct except you damn black folk. That's your damn problem. You're wasting our time. I said, so I was about ready to fight. I said, hold a second. Wait a minute. I ain't going for that. What do you mean I'm wasting your time by the code of conduct and you jumping on me? And they said, well, look, each one recited. One of them, I can't think of her name now. She was from Chicano. She said, Dr. Anderson, even the Chicano movement, we have a code of conduct. It was very simple. We say, whenever your community move and your people move, you move and follow your people. She said, that's how simple it is in our code of conduct. That's why in every town, we're going to have a Mexican town, a little Havana, a little Hialeah, a little Cuba, because we stay with our people. And I said, okay. And then then Alfred Wong from San Francisco State, he said, Dr. Anderson, even in Chinatown, we've always had a code of conduct. It was very simple. In Chinatown in San Francisco, because he's from San Francisco. He said in Chinatown, it was very simple, that in Chinatown, we didn't need any white policemen to come in our neighborhoods to try to enforce a code of conduct from a white standard. So we didn't allow a white policeman in any Asian or Chinatown in the United States. That was fact. They said, because we had a cardinal rule that if you lived in Chinatown, you were Chinese, you did something that violated the code of conduct, you had to get out of town before the sun went down, or your butt floated in the damn bay with your throat cut. And then they said we had two groups. One was called the hatchet men, the other was called the tongs that dealt with you. Today you might call it the mafia or some organized crime unit you mentioned earlier. And then the Apache Indian, he said, Dr. Anderson, even as you see these negative movies, the cowboy movies about us, you know, he said we also had, even though we might have been beat up sometime, you know, and by the white man, but they said but we did have a code of conduct in these Indian villages. I said, what was your code of conduct? He said, well, a very simple rule that said you got freedom in our Indian tribes, the Apaches. So you got your freedom. You can make your own decision. If you want to leave the tribe, you can go with the white folk anytime you want to. But once you leave our tribe and go get with white folks, like you black folk doing the social integration, you all social integrate. We had Indians that wanted to social integrate with whites. But once they left that tribe, they went outside of a fort. They said they could never, never, never come back to the tribe. Once you left the tribe, when integrated with whites, you could not come back. That was the first thing. So, and then if you ever watch these movies, you see a fort, see little Indian teepees around there, around those forts. They said you must live with whites. You couldn't come back. The second thing they said as an Indian is that if you did come back and you brought back the cavalry or white folk to attack us and try to enslave us and beat up and kill us, they said the first arrow we shoot will be to get your butt. You'll be the first person we'll kill if you ever bring white folk back to do us in. And see, now every day in the black community, we're doing just the opposite. Then I said, I'm sorry. And I said, and you're right. They said, only you would in your black community, would you all let a black man go downtown every day, integrate with whites, sell you all out, then come home in the evening, put on his shorts, go out in the backyard and barbecue and cut the grass, and you don't do a damn thing about it. That's you all's problem. Your people, the only people who have a damn code of conduct. You let black folk do anything they want to do. You keep talking about, well, we can't say anything. He's got a right. They say he don't. Your people in your group do not have those rights that you keep giving them to them. They do not have a right to sell you out, misuse you, and abuse you. They do not have a right to constitute an overclass that would suck up money and wealth and power and resources and go with the white community and abandon you and leave you leaderless, powerless, and no nothing, no home, no businesses, no community, nothing. You don't have a right. They don't have a right to sell you out. They said, but you let these people get away with it. That's you all's problem. They said, please don't come to any more of these meetings, invite us here, and you start spending all our time talking about what you all lack. You can't get your people straight, don't involve us in it. And I told him, I said, I apologize, you're absolutely right. We don't have a code of conduct. That's why I know in my books, now you hear me talking about code of conduct. We got blacks right now that are boasting about how they've socially integrated, how they abandon black folk. They don't trust black folk, don't want to be with black folk. They hate black folk, they hate blackness. They despise black folk. And they get away with it, no blacks. Right now they got to run for public office soon. That's why I've been trying to create an Us Too movement. That's why I want all your readers, your listeners to buy those damn books, those 5 library packs, and start reading them. I want a Black Us Too movement in this country. So they started running, when the Democratic Party, Republican Party started running for office in about another 3 or 4 months. I want to say, no, we ain't going for it anymore. We got an Us Too movement. We're gonna put our own interests first. We got our own code of conduct to look after our own people, buy from our own people, support our own people, protect our own people, and put our own people's interests first. And don't come here talking about what you're gonna do for minorities and poor folk and people of color and gays, transsexual, handicapped, midgets, people with ingrown toenails and hemorrhoids. We don't want to hear about that crap. If you're not going to support black folk, do not run in our community, get our votes. Every one of these blacks are going to run for the president to watch. Everyone is going to talk about what they're going to do for everybody but black people, because they don't have a code of conduct. And they know you don't have enough money to enforce the code of conduct. If you're going to have a code of conduct, you must have an economic base to punish or reward those who violate your code of conduct. This is very important. I'm telling you at the end of your question about the importance of a code of conduct. To have an effective code of conduct, and you must have a wealth base beneath it where you can either reward or punish those who violate it. That's one of the things I found out a long time ago in being in that meeting in Puerto Rico. You must have, we don't have a wealth base. We're so busy trying to integrate and put up businesses in everybody else's community and be consumers rather than producers and powers. We can't even we don't have a code of conduct. We couldn't even enforce a code of conduct because we don't have any money and wealth and power.
All right. So everybody heard that. So the code of conduct, the first code of conduct I would suggest for everybody is definitely within your household, in the space that you control, create a code of conduct that's going to generate wealth and power. And then when you have wealth and power, you get to decide how things are going to happen in your life and in the lives of others. Everybody might not do it, and it's okay, but you can do it. You can do it in your household. I know that was the decision we made in our house, that we just have certain ways things are going to get done, and we're getting off the grid. For the most part, we're just not interested in doing things the way they teach black folks to do things. So I want to say thank you, Dr. Anderson, for your time, and everybody who's in here. I hope you guys will take a second and give Dr. Anderson a digital round of applause. Just tell him thank you right quick, please, in the comments. Please hit the thumbs up button, share button, hearts and likes on Facebook, all that stuff. Let Dr. Anderson know how much you appreciate it. Powernomics Thursdays, every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. My podcast, I usually come on here at 2 p.m. Eastern to go live. But if you want to get a text when I go live, in case I go live at some other time, just text the word voice to 31996. Text voice to 31996. Also, if you want to go check out Dr. Anderson's books, you can go to Powernomics.com. He's got a library pack for $99. You get all 5 books plus a DVD. Again, this is a great summer exercise for your children, for your family, something that will bring you together, something that you will go back to over and over again as a reference for how you're going to build your own family empire. A lot of y'all, I don't know if anybody in here, I don't know if it sounds white of me to admit that I love the show Game of Thrones, but I'm going to just tell y'all right now, I love that show. And in Game of Thrones, all you're seeing, if you watch Game of Thrones, Dr. Anderson?
Yes. And I'll see you next week and tell them I'm going to see how many I'm going to buy those books. I got to move this Us Too movement before the election started about another 2 I want you to surprise all these people who want to take black folk for granted in this society.
All right. Well, take care, Dr. Anderson. Thank you so much.
Now, buddy.
But I'll let you get on out of here. But I'll tell you guys, with Game of Thrones, if anybody watches Game of Thrones, you know that Game of Thrones is basically a bunch of white people fighting for power. And if you watch Game of Thrones, one thing you'll notice that there are all these families that have been around for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, and they all have codes of conduct. Like the Lannisters always pay their debts. The Starks have a certain way of doing things, the Tullys, and you have all these royal families, and everybody in their own house, in their own space, is a king. You know, they got a king, a queen, lords, the Lord of the North, you know, etc. And I'm gonna tell you, I think that for you, you may want to think about your house in the same way. Your house is a kingdom. You know, you are the king of that house. You are the queen of that house. You make the rules. You establish the code of conduct, and it's the code of conduct that keeps the house together, that keeps the family together. So, so just going deeper into what Dr. Anderson said, I'll talk to you guys for a couple of seconds here because I know Dr. Anderson had to go, but I think this is worth discussing. Figure out what your code of conduct is going to be. Write some things down. Just some basic rules, you know, like for example, when I was growing up, my daddy was all about codes. You know, my daddy's a soldier. He's and plus he's a police officer, right? So I mean, if anybody has codes of conduct, it's usually cops, right? Good or bad, right? And because some of the cops are dirty, but then some of them have codes just so they can stay alive, right? So ultimately, the idea of the code is not about morality and whether you like cops or don't like cops. It's about winning. It's about figuring out, you know, like what's the best way for your family to win. And I'm gonna tell you, when I grew up, I remember my daddy would give us codes of conduct, codes of behavior. One time, let me tell you a story. One time I was my dad's friend hooked me up with a deal on a new car when I was about 21 years old, and he was gonna give me a deal on the car. And I remember I called this man up to go meet with him to talk about this car, and he wasn't nowhere around. And I called the office, and I was like, well, I'm supposed to meet with him today, and he didn't show up, and blah 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 blah. And I'm talking to his white boss, and my father was like, no, don't do that. You don't do that. Don't do that to no brother. Don't call his boss and complain like that. You know, so he was reminding me about staying on code. In other codes are things like you don't steal from family. You know, if you got family, you know, so that might be part of your code. You might just tell your children, look, we don't steal from family. Stealing's wrong all the time, but when it comes to family, that's like some death penalty type shit. Like that's like you steal from family, that's as low as you can get. So I don't care how desperate you are. I don't care how much you're feeling like Cardi B when she's talking about I used to drug and rape and steal and rob, and blah blah blah. Well, if you're gonna go Cardi B level and start drugging and robbing people or whatever, don't do that to family. You know, you do that to family, then you're gonna get cut out. You're gonna get cut out of the institution. You get cut out of the family because you violated the code, right? Every institution has a code. Every family has a code. Every group, organization, anything that's structured always has a code. So with your own family, figure out what your code is. You know, so our code was you stick by your siblings no matter what. If your brother or your sister done did something ratchet, fine, deal with it internally, deal with it in-house. You know, if I find out my brother murdered somebody, I'm not gonna go run to the popos and be like, oh yeah, officer, he's in the house, go get him. No, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna be like, they're gonna be like, where's your brother? I don't know, I haven't seen him. But then I'm gonna go find him and I might whoop his ass behind the scenes, right? But I'm not gonna go to the police and tell them where my brother is if I know my brother committed a crime. We're gonna handle that as a family, right? So family sticking together could be part of your code. Don't steal from your relatives could be part of the code. Economically speaking, you know, if you borrow money from a relative, paying your relative back should be part of the code. Don't treat your damn relatives like they bill collectors. Anybody have that where you know, y'all know that's a little touchy issue for me because I don't have relatives borrow from me and they act like they forgot, like they don't even remember, like what I borrow from you. What are you talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. They get amnesia and shit, but they know how to blow up your phone when they need money. And you know, and so to me, I think part of your economic code might be if you borrow money from a relative, you pay them back first. Or we go into Big Mama. Big Mama gonna settle it. She gonna be the judge and jury and executioner up in that mug, and she'll hit the gavel down and say, you need to pay your cousin back right now, right? You don't treat your relatives the way you treat a bill collector or a debt collection agency. Y'all, I understand. I know black folks. I'm telling you, if you know that feeling of the bill collectors calling and you just conveniently, you memorize all the numbers so you know not to answer, right? That's fine. But if you're gonna do that, you do that to them, but you don't do that to your own. You don't do that to your own relatives. Seriously, and if you have relatives who do that, then what you do is you just tell them, look, you broke the code. I still love you, but you'll never get money from me again because in this family, you have bad credit now. Right now, your credit score is now down to 0, which means we will only loan you $0. So if you want $0, if you want to borrow $0.00, then we can get you every time. But if you want to borrow more than $0, like a penny, you're getting nothing because you broke the code. Why is it important to hold people accountable on code? Because codes are how institutions maintain themselves. It's like a basketball team that has a game plan. Every player's got to be on code. Every player's got to know what the strategy is. Every player's got to know how to run the offensive scheme. If one player's off code and doing his own thing, it messes everything up. You know, with New Edition, they had Bobby Brown. He was off code, right? They all doing the same little dance. Bobby Brown's over on the side with his shirt off, wiggling like an asshole. They were like, "You're off code, bro. You're messing up the group because you're off code," right? So ultimately, what I'm saying is that in our families, we got to have codes and we got to enforce those codes. And what you do is you start with your children, because remember that when you have you and your wife, you and your husband, you and your boyfriend, whatever it is. I ain't judging if you're married to your kids' parents or not. And then you've got your children, and your children will have children, and those children will have children. So in a very short amount of time, you won't be the parent anymore. You'll be the grandparent. And then after that, shortly after, you'll be the great grandparent. So you'll have 20 or 30 or 40 people that are all operating off of a code that you established way back in 2019. Right? It'll be the year 2069. You'll be old as hell, you know, barely hanging on, and you'll just be looking. You'll be thinking back to like, I remember when I created that code. I told your granddaddy when he was a baby that he needed to operate by the code. And you'll see your kids, grandkids, and great grandkids living by the code, building businesses off the code, holding the family together off the code. We need codes of conduct. So implement that in your house. I'm not talking about the whole Black community right now. I told you I don't have the power nor the energy to go and figure out a way to get 40 million Black people on code. I can't do that. But what I can do is talk to you individually as heads of households. You know, like Game of Thrones. Like, okay, we're the kings of the North or the queens of the North. Like we run the North. So in your household, you're the Lord of your household. In your household, figure out what your code is going to be. Is your code going to be educational excellence? That's the code we have in our house. You come up in here, you got too many B's on your report card, we're going to have a talk with you. You got a C on your report card, we're really going to have a talk with you and the teacher, and you're going to tutoring, and you have no choice, right? That's the code. You understand? Like, or the code between me and my woman. There ain't nothing that woman could ever do to me that would make me put my hands on her. There's no excuse. I don't care. I could come home and find her in the bed butt naked with 3 sailors and a monkey, and I still have no excuse for putting my hands on her. That's our code. We don't put our hands on each other. We don't yell at each other. We don't do ratchet shit, right? So figure out what your code is going to be as a family so that will be implemented into the culture of your grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I want to say, Keith Baker, thank you very much for your support. Keith, you're going to be a moderator, man, because I appreciate you back and you having our backs. Let's see. Intelligence and wisdom with direction and action plans. Much love to you and Dr. Anderson. Yeah, I wanted to give you guys an action plan to kind of maybe give some examples on sort of how we're implementing these things in our lives right now. So let me repeat the code of conduct that I proposed earlier. One of the codes we believe in the Black Business School is what we call the Black Core of 3. The Black Core of 3 says that Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses. So that means that when it comes to education, I'm not real concerned with making the public schools better. I hope that they get better, but really, if I'm raising a child, I try to educate my child be above and beyond the public school. They're going to get education when they come home. They're going to get education from the web. Maybe I'm going to put them in a school like Freedom Home Academy International, but I'm not going to let a white man be solely responsible for educating my child. Don't disrespect to white folks, but y'all just haven't done a good job. Y'all failed miserably. Even though you've had billions of dollars in your pocket, you still can't educate a Black child appropriately. Create our own jobs means I don't believe that a Black person is happy or empowered or fulfilled when he spends his whole life working for the very same people who have oppressed our people for the last 400 years. We don't get ahead like that. We don't build wealth like that. We ain't moving forward like that. Ain't nothing good coming out of that. So we're going to try plan B. Plan B means we don't want you to create the jobs. We will create the jobs. So so when a politician says, well, Dr. Woods, how do we fix the Black unemployment rate? You know, maybe we can go to these big corporations that are owned by white people and get them to create more jobs for Black people and more affirmative action programs and the privileged Negro program and give some more good nigga stickers so that they'll hire more Black people. And I'll be like, no, here's what you do. You create a multi-billion-dollar fund and you allow smart people like myself or somebody else to take that $10 billion fund and to go into communities all across America and create urban business development centers. And in those business development centers, I know exactly what we would teach. We would take young children under the age of 12, and we, as well as their parents, and we would teach them how to invest in real estate. We would teach them how to invest in stocks and bonds. We would teach them how to start businesses, set up LLCs. And then we would bring them together as a group on a regular basis and have economic church. And in economic church, they would not only get the sermon and the information, but they would also network with one another so that they can become each other's customers. So I'm creating a business, you creating a business, I'm your customer, you're my customer. So we ain't got to worry about whether or not other people support us, because we're taking our 1.3 trillion and we're supporting each other with that. You can't build an economy with 1.3 trillion dollars. I don't care what other people have told you. So the third part, educate our own children, create our own jobs, support Black businesses. Conscious spending is very important. When people talk about being woke, you must talk about being economically woke, being financially woke, being woke as a consumer. Why? Well, because they want you to engage in unconscious spending. Unconscious spending is when you do things on habit, when you just do things without thinking about it. You're a zombie and you're like, oh, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Target. You're just spending your money because you're not thinking about it, and they're literally robbing you. Well, think about it like this. An unconscious person is not a person who is aware. An unconscious person is not a person who makes good decisions. An unconscious person is not a person who's safe. An unconscious person is a person who gets played. An unconscious person gets victimized. An unconscious person gets raped, whether that is physically raped or financially raped, right? A lot of sexual assault occurs because the victim was unconscious, right? So why would you want people to allow you or to encourage you to not just let them make you unconscious, but you actually seeking to be unconscious? You enjoy being unconscious. You want to be unconscious. Why would you want to be unconscious when unconscious people get financially raped? Right? So they are putting date rape drugs in your schools. So they can make you unconscious so they can rob you. They're putting date rape drugs in your media so they can put your ass to sleep so they can rob you. They're putting date rape drugs into the environments in department stores. When you go shopping, they do little things, the way the music plays, the way the imagery looks on the thing. The LeBron dunking a basketball and you want to be like him, so you want to wear the same shoes he's got on. No disrespect to LeBron, but that's how they do it. They want you unconscious because they want you. They know that you're easier to rob when you ain't woke. Who's easier to rob and kill and to steal from? A person who's wide awake, who's like, I'm on you. I drank coffee. What you doing? Wait, why you got your hand in my pocket? Right? Like, who's easier to rob? That person or the person who's like, who's knocked out? Who's knocked out? Who's easier to rob? The person who is fully alert and questioning everything you do and watching you like a hawk, or the person who is unconscious? So when people use terms like woke, stay woke, get woke, financially woke, I'm woke, you got to understand there's a meaning behind that. There's a deep interpretation of what wokeness really means. Wokeness means being alert to all the things they're doing to you, which means you got to question everything. Like every time you put food in your mouth, what is this? What are the ingredients? Why are y'all feeding this to me? Well, every time you consume something on TV, you got to be like, okay, what is going on here? What's the imagery? Why does every time they have a lead character, the character is gay, and then they make the gay character black, they're trying to get me to want to be gay. Why is every black woman in this show always dating a white man? Oh, I get it. They want black women to let go of the black man and to want to go be with white men, you know what, to be the white man's side chick or whatever it is that she's doing on Scandal, right? Like if you're really woke, you can't even watch mainstream media anymore because you're always like noticing all the little shit that you wouldn't have noticed when you were asleep. You know, a woke person is a person who will read a book, a history book, a white history book, and be like, this is bullshit, man. Like Christopher Columbus did what? You know, right? But a person who's not woke, who's unconscious, is going to just suck it all in, right? And they're going to get robbed and raped at behind every turn. So wokeness is a necessity. Going back to code, Black Core 3, educate our own children, create our own jobs, support Black businesses. You don't need to send your kids to a special school to educate your own kids. You can have a university in your house. I have a university in my house. It's called youtube.com. Another university is called google.com. You know, we'll watch the Science Channel, whatever it is we want our kids to consume. We control that shit. It ain't gonna just come from somebody that we don't know, right? It's too important. Their brains are too important. Second part of the code of conduct is before the age of 12, rite of passage for children before the age of 12. Every Black child should know how to start their own business. Every Black child, that means fill out the LLC form, know the basics of running a business, producer versus consumer, maybe even get to the point where they can make their own money. At least be aware of that. Also, every Black child should know how to buy a home, the basics of buying a home, like what that looks like, why it's more important to be an owner versus a renter, like what the benefits are, how that works. Third, every Black child should know how to invest in the stock market. I've talked to you guys about it 1,000 times and explained that even monkeys can invest in the stock market. So if monkeys can invest in the stock market, so can your 7-year-old or your 10-year-old. It ain't that hard to do. The third part of the code of conduct, if you want to add this in, is some kind of books like Powernomics or whatever it is that you want your children to read. Have them reading books like that. If you want to go take a look at some of the books that are on my list, you can go to drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. But find something that's sort of required reading for the family. Offer your children, just say to them, like, look, I'll give you $20 if you read this book, or if you read chapter 5, I'll give you $10, right? Or the child comes to you and says, Mom, can I get money to go to Burger King or whatever? You say, okay, finish reading that chapter in Powernomics and I'll give you Burger King money. Every time your child wants something from you, that's an opportunity for you to have leverage over them. So don't waste it. Don't waste leverage. What you do is you say, like our kids really want a trampoline. They're like, we want a trampoline. How do kids want to? I'm like, who the fuck? Y'all ain't gonna use no damn trampoline. All these damn kids got trampolines. They don't even use them, right? But you know what? I'm like, okay, you want a trampoline? So guess what? I got something I can hold over your head forever. So whenever they start tripping, I'm like, well, you know, kids that trip like that, that do things like that, they don't get trampolines. Or every time they don't want to study their financial flashcards, I'll be like, well, you know, I don't want to get a trampoline for somebody who's not financially literate, right? You know, or every time they you know, I want them to read something, I'll be like, well, you know, if you read that, you'll be a step closer to getting your trampoline, or I can put $20 toward that trampoline for you, right? So figure out what they want and encourage them, incentivize them to do the things they need to do in order to get the things that they want. That's kind of how life works anyway, right? Smart people are the ones who get rewarded for that, right? So don't reward them for being stupid. Don't reward them for being lazy. Reward them for being hardworking. Reward them for being smart, and also reward them for understanding and sticking to the code of conduct. They must have a code of conduct in that household for themselves, for their own life, a code of conduct for their family, and a code of conduct for their community. Then at that point, you unleash them into the world where they're going to be exposed to all the BS. But by the time they get exposed to the BS, you will have so deeply ingrained an ideology into their mental framework that the BS won't sink in. They're going to be the one at school who's going to be the wokest kid on the university campus, as opposed to all these other poor kids who don't know who the hell they are, and they get to campus, and these campuses are turning them into little idiotic Oreo zombies. So anyway, I'm about to go. I'm losing my voice. So please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Please, please, please hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you want to get text alerts when I go live, text the word voice to 31996. Text voice to 31996. Also, if you want to go and check out financial flashcards for your kids, or financial workbooks or something like that with the summer coming up, or whatever the case may be, you can go to financialworkbooks.com or financialflashcards.com. It all goes to the same website, but it kind of helps you get directly to the flashcards if that's what you want to do. So I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon. I'm gonna go and do something about my voice. I've been all hooting and hollering, and now I need to just go lay down and just shut the hell up for a little while. So I'll see you soon. Stay on code.